oh, don't tell your brother and your dad. Like, this is just between you and I.
Hi, babes. Welcome back to the Chase Life with Kelly show. I am your host, Kelly Chase. I have on another health guest with us today, and I'm so excited. I feel like maybe I'm just like in a period of my life where health is just really important. Obviously, those listening to my podcast and follow me on Instagram know that I am currently kind of going through a little health journey. So I feel like, divine things are happening out there. Because we were having I just interviewed last week the other week another health expert, and I feel like it's really important to get different perspectives as well as obviously different expertise and information. And obviously not everyone's person. So I think, if you can relate to our guest today, I told her I was like self-promote as much as you want because I want this podcast to always be, a resource for you all of my listeners out there. And yeah, so let me introduce our guest today. It's Aly Johnston, FNP-BC, the founder of Well by AM Nursing, which she established in 2021 to help clients manage obesity and hormone-related issues. Aly brings over 20 years of medical experience and training, having earned her bachelor's of nursing in 2010 and her master's in family practice in 2017. Throughout her career, she's worked across various healthcare settings nationwide. She is nationally board certified in family nurse practice by the American Nurses Credentialing Center. Welcome to the show, Miss Aly. How are you?
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yeah, I'm great today. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yes, I'm like I said, I'm self-promote as much as you want because I really think that health and wellness, especially coming from like different backgrounds, holistic approaches, all of that is so necessary in this world, especially with all the information out there and misinformation and all of that. So I'm happy that you're here and you can hone in on certain things. First, I want my audience to learn just who you are, and yeah, what's your story and how'd you get into the field that you're in?
She introduced me, my name's Aly Johnston. I'm a family nurse practitioner and I subspecialize in obesity and hormone management. But I'll go back to where I came from. So I was born and raised in the Midwest in Ohio. Most of my family is still there. And I actually started college early. I started at 16, so I was able to graduate with my bachelor's of science in nursing like a few weeks after I turned 21. Um,
Uh,
Went into adult critical care. I went to school in Alabama, so I worked in Alabama for a little while. And then I'm currently in California and I kept travel nursing back and forth through different states for about 8.5 years. And so I kept landing back in California. And I feel like I've done a little bit of everything. I've done electronic health records, I've done interventional radiology, which was the last thing that I did at the bedside before I became a nurse practitioner. But through all of the travel nursing and all of my, excuse me, years of medical experience, I saw that there were so many patients that really needed more detailed care and more time for someone to listen to them. And so, like my first year as a nurse practitioner, I actually got licensed in 2017, but I didn't start working as an NP until 2019 here in California. And patients would come in and they would be seen in, 5 to 7 minutes. And you can't even manage one disease process in that time, and give education. And I think that's what a lot of patients in our society in general is lacking because we don't have time as providers to do that. And I could go down a whole rabbit hole about but patients really need time and attention to understand their bodies. And it's not just like a one appointment, see you in 6 months or see you never again, because like, as children and adults, because I treat children as well, primarily adults, but our bodies evolve, things change, things happen. And I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, go online and find misinformation or information that's not specific to them, their body, and their story.
mhm.
So a lot of patients really do need that, specialized care. And unfortunately, Western medicine is very cookie cutter. It's not specialized. So I really enjoy like giving patients a tailored treatment plan for whatever it is they're, coming to me to be treated for. I specifically focus on weight and hormones, like hormone replacement therapy, weight loss medications. But that is just a picture, like a part of the picture, not the entire, piece of the pie. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people, like I said, do need that, tender love and care and listening, to be able to fully understand their bodies, their health, and where they can, start and where they can go and get to, because a lot of patients have some goals in mind, but they don't know how to get there. They don't have that roadmap. And so I like to give that to my patients to be able to make them feel the best that they can.
I love that. Yeah, no, absolutely. So speaking on that, like, do you have a particular like protocol that like a yeah, like I guess a protocol that you offer to all of your clients just like as a foundation, and then based on their story and and environment and work and relationship, like all the other factors plus their blood work and all the other kinds of tests, then go from there as far as like what you're supplementing them with or prescribing them or whatever. Does everyone have the same like foundational like protocol?
Yeah, so I'll kind of separate and talk about weight management because, as you probably know, it's super hot in the last few years. Like everybody knows what, weight loss medications are. And for people that are not super knowledgeable, they didn't come out just a few years ago. They've been around for a very long time. They've just come to the US market and been FDA approved within the last 2 decades, but they have been around for about as long as I've been alive, which is nearly 40 years. So, right? To answer your question, yes, like if it's a weight management patient, they kind of have, the basic foundation. I'm going over the same questions, understanding their medical history. For my weight management patients, I don't always run blood work because if they're generally healthy and, they're able to, have a conversation with me and understand their protocol, I'm not going to require that they get blood work unless they tell me they have some sort of, underlying disease that would be contraindication anyway. So both my patients come to me are generally healthy, like on paper and visually, like their assessment, and but metabolically they may not be healthy. So I always encourage lab work, but it's not a requirement because these medications are not going to negatively impact your blood work unless you are just taking it incorrectly, because these
Mm.
are still drugs and they can, damage you, and there can be, adverse side effects. But if somebody follows the protocol as I'm prescribing it, there's typically not, much damage going on, if any. I do encourage the people that are concerned with their hormones or liver or kidney functioning to get a baseline, whether it's through me or their primary care, so we can see a trend. That's what I really love,
Yeah.
because had some incredible short-term changes in patients and long-term too, where, patients were, in and out of the hospital with, critical problems with their glucose and their liver. And they start these medications not only for weight management or weight reduction, but to completely change their metabolism. So, and I have patients that are as young as 20 years old and patients into their 80s on these medications. So, I've kind of seen a good spectrum, but for the basic general, 20, 30, 40, 50-year old that's on weight loss medications, they come to me, they fill out, medical history. We go over everything, answer their questions. If it's appropriate and they want to proceed, then I prescribe them weight loss medications. And then I do a follow-up process with them, whether it's, every month I have my team follow up with them, and then they have access to me because I'm like a concierge provider, meaning if somebody wants to text or call me on a weekend, I'll answer them.
Awesome. That's nice. That's like super supportive. I love that. Do you take clients like virtually? Like, are you wherever?
Yeah, so I've had locations in the past, like rented spaces here near where I live, but I do everything virtual now. I'm a cash-based provider, I don't bill any insurance. So the patients that are listening to this and they're like, oh, I can't get it through my insurance, or it's not affordable through my insurance. And there are some, uninsured plans with the medications that are, in the pharmaceutical industry to get it for a reduced fee. But usually when somebody comes to me, it's a little bit more affordable. So yes, I mean, I am seeing patients like on Zoom, like I had a patient a couple hours ago, and she's been a long-term patient of mine, but like she filled out updated forms. I did a video with her. and she places the order for the meds, and then I see her like in a month.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Do you like in combination with the weight loss medicine are like how does like health and like nutrition and just like that type of like health in a different way, like the holistic approach, like how does that fit in with your approach?
Yeah. So the one thing I've learned about my patients, even in a primary care setting and personally for myself, because I had a weight loss journey, and I can always touch on that if your listeners hear that, um, is that we can't just dole out somebody a drug and tell them good luck. Hopefully you lose the weight that you want to lose, right? So, and that's another part of education missing in our country is just about nutrition, the things that we need to have our body to run effectively, certain vitamins and nutrients that we might not be getting at all from food or a very minimal amount. And again, this is tailored to each patient. And of course, like I said earlier, like if I had a base, line of blood work and can see, micronutrients or macronutrients are, missing, I can give you a better guidance of, hey, you need to take this many, milligrams of this vitamin or this many units of, vitamin D or whatever. So, I love to give like supplement recommendations if somebody's looking for that. I love to give nutrition information. And I always tell my weight loss patients specifically, because most of my patients, grew up in the 70s, 80s, and maybe even early 90s where they were taught and it was culturally okay to restrict, restrict, restrict and be on a diet. Uh,
Yeah.
if you remember, but there were a lot of crazy diets in the 1990s and early 2000s. So, and this whole low calorie diet for a lot of people just doesn't work, especially if you're chronically obese or dealing with metabolic issues. So, I really encourage my patients to, be honest with themselves and honest with me and say, what are you eating every day? How can we
Yeah.
change it to make you feel better and lose weight at the same time so you don't feel like you're going without?
Hmm.
A lot of these weight loss medications will make you not desire food or fluid. So, like, I think one of the last things I tell my patients when I see them on video, like especially if they're brand new to weight loss therapy, I say, a lot of times you won't even want to drink water. So you have to tell yourself, like, hey, like I need to drink X number of ounces of water a day, because we, all of us need fluid to function. So it seems simple and maybe kind of silly and dumb, but I have had so many patients over the years where they're like, oh, like I haven't even had like 30 ounces of water today. I'm like, well, your kidneys are dying right now. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
fluid.
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting. So it kind of like shuts off the I don't know, receptors in a sense. Like it like for you to be able to think that you're thirsty or you're hungry or whatever, it's shutting that down. So you have to intentionally be doing it.
Yes. So, and I won't get into all the sciencey aspect of like the GLP-1 and GIP receptors. These receptors like are God-given. We have them in our body, in our brain, our vessels. They're head to toe throughout our body. And we have hormones that are, in our gut. Like when we eat any food, if we have, fluid with glucose in it, our GIP receptor is quickly initiated, and but unfortunately the receptors that we have in our body, they only have a very short half-life, meaning if you or I, say have pasta with sauce on it, which has, carbs and probably a little bit of sugar and some fiber, a little bit of fiber, that GLP receptor will turn on, but it's not going to stay on.
Uh-huh.
um, Meaning like, it'll tell you maybe at some point you're full, like don't eat anymore. But unfortunately, with a lot of foods that are ultra processed, they don't even trigger that receptor. So, and I have patients ask me all the time, well, like, well, if we have these receptors in our body, God given, like, why are they not working? They are working, but a lot of foods and products that are placed into our food system is actually turning that hormone off or not even eliciting the response at all. And that also can happen with fluid. Like we just don't have a desire to put anything into our body because our dopamine response is dampened. And dopamine is like a reward center, right? And so these drugs can specifically dampen your dopamine response, which can be good and bad for some people. That could be a whole nother podcast. But in general, like, our dopamine center is our reward center. So if we have sex, if we have a cookie that we really like, if we, do something that gives us happiness or satisfaction, that reward center is triggered. And a lot of times for people, it's food. And so this drug is very unique, or this class of drugs are unique in that it can dampen that, so you don't even have a desire to trigger that response. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It are there like, do you run across patients that are, they're now taking the weight loss medication and but they really don't change their lifestyle. They don't change their eating habits. And how does that, I mean, because that is something, I mean, just growing up in a very like holistic household, my parents and I have had numerous conversations around the peptides and weight loss therapy and all of that. And I think that is our biggest frustration is like, we are so like food is medicine, right? And granted, I had another expert here in Atlanta come on the podcast and talk about GLP-1s and various peptides and everything and the science behind it all. And that was very helpful and shed light on a different perspective. But I appreciated the fact that she was definitely encouraging, but you have to make a lifestyle change. Like you can't just like take these drugs and continue to eat the same way or continue to live and work out the same way or not work out at all. But I know people that are on these and they aren't changing their life. They're like, oh, I still eat what I want. And I'm like, well, you're not healthy. You're just putting a chemical in your body at that point.
Right. Yeah. So, yes, to answer your question, I see patients like that all the time. And it kind of happens, usually, not always, usually in a good way, where it's like, okay, you're not listening to my advice about, nutrition and exercise and hydration and sleep hygiene and all of these things. They all play a role in our ability to lose and then maintain that weight loss. So for those patients, they usually separate themselves without me discharging them, meaning
Mhm.
like, they're like, oh, well, she's telling me to do this. I'm not getting to the goal that I want, but they know, most of them know that they're not following the things that they have been educated on. And again, my education for patient A versus patient B may not work for everyone, right? And that's why if somebody is having problems with, weight maintenance or weight reduction, I will tweak things specific to a different patient than I might not for another one. So, but yes, like I don't think that everyone, if they're overweight or obese, needs to be on a weight loss medication. I don't think that everyone that's obese or overweight needs to have weight loss surgery like I did. I had weight loss surgery 4.5 years ago, and I'm forever grateful for it. And I'm very, very glad and blessed that I had zero complications and I've kept off over 130 pounds. And I feel great. And metabolically, on paper, like lab wise, I'm also very healthy. But I think this perception or decision about, giving these medications to like the masses, as far as like, oh, well, like now it's so affordable for, everyone to go get it at Costco or Walmart. Like, I think that
Right,
be a problem because it's going to affect our neurosystem, like I talked about with dopamine.
right,
And if somebody stays on that, that could affect their mood, their ability to work. Like there's so many things that it could change. And of course, children, like it's FDA approved for some young populations to receive that. And there are some patients that are under 18 um, that they're advanced and they're understanding enough to know that this is something that could help them. It could be a tool. But I don't agree with like just giving it to everyone, giving it to whoever's obese. I think there does need to be some psychological therapy, whether it's counseling, binge eating, disorder treatment. And again, this is tailored to each patient, but so many providers just like, oh, you get one, you get one, you get one, like Oprah's going to give out, a bunch of money. Like, I think the providers are, in my experience, just seeing, people, colleagues, they're just giving it out to everyone because they want to lose 20 pounds. Um,
right.
and some people do need to lose 20 pounds to be more metabolically healthy. But like I have definitely had patients that have come to me and I'm like, no, like you're not a good candidate, and or they say, from their medical history that they are, but they're actually not a good candidate because they're not able to follow all the lifestyle changes and choices that they're personally making. Like I know for me, like I had to make huge shifts in my lifestyle, huge. Um,
Sure.
and I have to consciously think about it every day. Like after having weight loss surgery, I have a much smaller stomach than the average adult woman. And so I have to think about and time my food and my fluid every single day. And I think a lot of people would think, oh, well, that would be exhausting. But I know for me that it's a choice so I can stay healthy and hopefully live as long as possible because I know plenty of patients, young and old, who have died from metabolic disease related to obesity. So
Right.
I want that to be me.
Yeah, we don't want that to be you either. I love that. Can you share a little bit more about your story and yeah, just share a little bit more about that and maybe the identity transformation that has come with it.
Yes, that's a great question. So, I'll try to give a brief backstory about when I was growing up. So, I grew up in a very loving home. Both my parents, were wonderful. Unfortunately, they, didn't have a lot of money. They both worked, but we didn't really have a lot. And there were lots of times where we went without food. I remember vividly many times without electricity and running water. So, like, there were times that were pretty tough, right? But the times that we did have food, we went all out and we binge ate together. And it was like, well, we don't know when we're going to get our next meal or our next whatever, we were treating ourselves with. So we would eat in large volumes when we had the opportunity to. And my mom had so much shame around that as I got older, she and I would go somewhere and eat together, whether it was like at a McDonald's or Burger King or wherever. And then she would tell me, oh, don't tell your brother and your dad, like this is just between you and I. So we binge ate together. And I did that until I was like nearly 17 years old. And I was already, in college at that time and learning about nursing. And I was like, this is not a healthy way to be. And so throughout my 20s and into my early 30s, I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of therapy about family, about personal stuff. And then before I had weight loss surgery, I made the decision to go through like specifically like trauma binge eating therapy. And it was a very specific type of therapy that I found somebody that's what she, did and was trained in. And I've tried medications before I had surgery. I've tried FDA approved medications for binge eating and they did not work well for me. And so I made the decision after many years of thinking about it to have weight loss surgery. And I was just sick of like yo-yo dieting, losing 20 pounds, gaining 50 pounds, and losing 80 pounds and then gaining 100 pounds. Like I did that all through my 20s and 30s. So I knew that I could lose the weight, but I couldn't keep it off because of my binge eating.
Mm.
And I was a very active person. Like growing up, I played every sport. I was a cheerleader. I played tennis. I played basketball, volleyball, softball. Even through my 20s, I vigorously exercised. I've always been an active person. But even so, I was more, more of my life than not have I been obese. And so, and that's a lot of people in America, unfortunately. There's probably 60% plus of the population that are either overweight or obese. Like
Right.
plus percent. That's huge, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I actually was going through a divorce at the time that I decided to have surgery. I was like, well, it's not a better time. I need to focus on myself anyway. So, I had surgery, in March of 2021, and I was back to work within like a little over a month. Felt great, did fine. My surgeon was incredible. The team was incredible. And there are patients that have complications from weight loss surgery. I've seen it personally as a nurse at the bedside in ICU. I've seen it in my primary care office when I worked as a nurse practitioner. Patients can die from these kinds of surgeries. So it is
Right.
a risk to decide to have a major surgery like this because most surgeons cut off about 2/3 of your stomach and either reroute it for some surgeries or make it into a small, like golf sized pouch. So, and there's always a fear or worry of like, massive weight regain. And a lot of
Right.
you experience that. So, um, you were mentioning earlier about like, the holistic and nutrition like aspect of like, patients and whatnot. So one thing I share with my patients, whether they're a weight loss surgery patient or they're a weight loss patient just on medications, to avoid what are called slider foods. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, I haven't.
So we were taught that before surgery. Like I had to go through like nutritional therapy and counseling with a nutritionist. And this was all during COVID in 2020. Like I went through like 8 months of like nutritional classes, and I like saw a psychiatrist, and I had all kinds of stuff done before. And I was like, I mean, I'm a nurse, like I'm a nurse practitioner. I thought I would know about this stuff, but I just didn't know. And so I remember the nutritionist said, like, if you can, like, avoid slider foods like candy, M&Ms, cookies, chips, ice cream, things that like easily slide down.
Oh,
Um, tell my patients that now it's like these are the things that you should not be eating on a regular basis anyway, but they're easy to consume a ton of calories because they slide down so easy.
so true. The bag of chocolate candy that I consumed earlier.
Probably a couple thousand calories, right? So, and like, of course, we all want to have, sweets or things that we enjoy. Like some people really like savory or salty stuff. Some people like, sugary stuff. I like a little mix of both, but I have to, again, make that conscious effort and decision to like not eat a lot or sometimes not at all these slider foods because they do go down a lot easier than if I was sitting down to have steak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's something I like to share just because nutritionally, if we focus on protein and fiber, we're going to feel fuller, we're going to look better than if we're just eating a lot of sugar and ultra processed foods.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. With the, you said that you were going through a divorce as well as then having the procedure done. Kind of going back to like your identity, like you're transitioning out of a relationship, you're transitioning out of a identity relationship with who you were, right? Like, how did that? I mean, granted, I'm glad that you were going like psychiatry and therapy and all of these things. I think that that was probably extremely helpful. But like, how was that like internally? Because I feel like that is something that like I gained back 10 years ago, I gained about 40 pounds. And it was so frustrating to me to be that person. And then although I was like more relatable to everybody else at that point, but then to like lose the weight, I was like, oh my God, I finally like found myself again. Like when I came back to it. But when I was that, or when I talk to other people who have had weight loss transformations, that is something that they kind of just, highlight as a perspective of like, it wasn't like I just lost weight. I like lost a person. I lost myself. Like I lost, but I gained at the same time. Like I am this totally new person. So can you expand on that? Because I feel like that would just resonate a lot with our listeners too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my life I was overweight or obese. And there were some years in my teen years and 20s where looking back, I was like, ooh, like I was thin, but I felt like a big person. And right before I had surgery, I was at my highest weight. I was 284, and I'm 5'11", which is not, terribly big. If somebody was 5 foot taller, 5'5", at, almost 290 pounds, like that would be a lot.
Yeah.
But like for the women listeners that are listening, like I was a size 18, 20. I was miserable. And I knew that I had to do a lot of shedding, not just in my relationship, not just in the food, not just in the weight, but who I am and how, I look and feel and even perceived. And so like even now, this is, 4.5 years later, there are times that I look in the mirror and I still see a very big girl, because I saw that for so many years. And for people listening, I just want you to know and feel and understand, hopefully, that if you are going through that journey, whether you just started or you need to start or you have been through what I have been through and something similarly, that I think the one reason they call it a journey is because you don't really arrive at like feeling and having a self perception of like, oh, I'm a healthy weight or a normal weight for me. And and like, of course, like as women, we fluctuate with weight during our cycles and period and stuff. And sometimes that little bit of weight fluctuation can cause me anxiety. And I'm like, ooh, like if I gained like 10 pounds from my period, like what if I don't lose that? And so that can be scary. But the person that I was 5 years ago, the person I was 10 years ago, that person was not able to come with me to who I am today. So that identity shift had to happen. Otherwise, I don't think that I would be physically, mentally, and even spiritually as healthy as I am, regardless of the weight that I've lost. And I don't know if that really thoroughly answered your question, but I just feel, um, you know, the me as a person, as a human, as my spirit, my identity and my business and my career, I'm different than I was 4 or 5 years ago. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who go through big changes, whether it's weight or other related, and they don't change their identity because they don't know how to hop or skip from where they were to where they want to be. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with that when it comes to anything health related, and then business related too. And we could always talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
the identity upgrade need is real when we talk about major health changes. And a lot of people don't try or even know the tools that they need to get there. And in my opinion, the tools are using people, practitioners, counselors, nutritionists, whoever you need to give you the proper education to get to where you want to go.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't be where I'm at today, health wise, physically, mentally, if I didn't have an incredible counselor, an incredible psychiatrist, an incredible surgeon, friends and family that supported me, God that I was able to have, conversations with every day about my life and my health. So, if I just was like, oh, I'm just going to lose 100 pounds and like, I'll just figure it out on my own, it just doesn't work like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I don't think it's safe to do that either. I think that that's like where with my weight gain and loss journey. So I had gone through a bad breakup and it's like all trauma actions that stem from trauma. But I went through a bad breakup and I remember having a conversation with that ex-boyfriend about doing like a bikini competition or something, right? And so I was like, somehow in my brain, I'm like, well, maybe if I get like shredded, maybe he'll like want me back or something like that. Of course, like I want to say that that was the like in the back of my head language that was going on as to why I got so obsessed with doing this. But I didn't hire a coach. I didn't hire anybody. I was just Dr. Google, like, hey, Coach Google, what do I need to do in order to get like what is a bikini competitor diet? What's a bikini competitor workout? And I started like following that stuff and I started to lose the weight, like started to lose weight, but I didn't need to lose weight. Like did not need to lose weight. I saw 99 pounds on my scale. And that's like everyone was like, are you okay? Like, do you have an eating disorder? And I always brush my teeth after I eat. So people thought that I was like going to like puke. And I was like, no, I just, I'm eating normal, but I wasn't. I was reducing the amount of food that I was eating, but I was like excessively working out. And so my like speaking about like the dopamine and everything, it was like my cortisol went crazy and my body was just in a state of fight or flight. I went into starvation mode. So like it converted carrots to fat. Like that's my biggest explanation. And I then gained and I kept gaining and I kept gaining. And no matter how much I would work out, how little I would eat, I was still just gaining weight. And I'm like, I was getting so frustrated because I like would look over and I'm like, oh, this skinny girl over here is eating pizza every weekend. And I'm like, why am I gaining? And I'm eating literally like sweet potato, chicken, and asparagus every meal. It was so frustrating to me. But all that to say, it was just had I had appropriate tools in place and experts and specialists, that wouldn't have happened. So, and I still reap the consequences of like jacking up my hormones from all of that too. And my nervous system, like my vagus nerve, has been screwed since that.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that though, because I think a lot of women, I mean, men and women, but I treat mostly women, your listeners are mostly women. A lot of women who maybe have experienced something like that, like I hear this all the time in my patients. They're like, well, I'm doing everything right. Like you said, I'm eating chicken and asparagus. Like I'm doing all of the things. I'm exercising, maybe you're doing all of the things correctly, but your hormones, it's not just estrogen and testosterone that we have. There's all of these hormones that play a role. And yes, like what you just said about, you still are, having issues like that. It can last a very long time and maybe even not recover in the time that you think or want it to. So, yes, there can be some long-term negative repercussions from crazy dieting, crazy exercise, not treating our bodies and nourishing our bodies appropriately. And again, I think this stems from a lot of people now, even younger people, they see something, online on social media, on movies, or they're doing what their parents did and they're just restricting like crazy, even now in 2025. And I mean, I see patients that are in their 20s and they're like, oh, well, I only eat, this many times a day, or I only eat these types of foods. And I'm like, well, someone taught them that, or they looked it up on the internet somewhere, and I think the bottom line for all of this is that you, me, people that are listening, we're not nourishing our bodies and our minds, right? Like we're letting so much garbage come in, and then it's damaging our hormone system and our nervous system for a very long time. And that will take a lot of specialists to help you resolve, whether they're clinical ones or what I like to call woo-woo specialists. We need more than just more than just a nurse practitioner or a doctor to help you get to the root of things. And yes, it's great to be able to go online and Google something or use AI to find an answer quickly to things. But I hope the listeners are encouraged to reach out to somebody that can help them or at least start them down the right path. Because like I said at the very beginning, a lot of patients felt dismissed and gaslit when they go to their providers. And it's maybe not even done on purpose, because that provider is told that they must see X number of patients a day if they're in like a large healthcare system, and they don't have time to appropriately address their patient. And it's really sad and unfortunate. And that was one reason why I started my business in 2021, because I saw patients needing to sit with them longer. And so now I can sit with them for as long as they need and talk to them.
Which I love. I mean, and I think that's why, I mean, again, I was raised in a very holistic space. So I was going to functional medicine doctors at an early age, which was awesome. We feel, our family is like, there's a time and place for Western medicine. And I have health insurance with like my corporate company, and do I ever use it? Not really, but I'm like, I pay for it, but I am also spending thousands of dollars on functional medicine doctors. But it's because of that. Like, I feel like they're going to get to the root cause of things, and I'm all about that. I mean, my recent, I might have like a mass cellular activation.
Yes. Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. It's like next week I go to get my, just follow up on all my lab work and urine tests and everything. But that, based on my symptoms during my consultation with my doctor, who I've worked with over the last few years, I guess that was kind of like her hypothesis, was like, it sounds like this is what's going on. So she was like, I don't want to like give you any supplements until we get all your lab work back, but I am going to go ahead and give you some just like histamine support for right now, just because I've been having, that's like, I eat something and I get like rashes. And she's like, that's like a clear kind of symptom of like this stuff. So yeah, it's been fascinating. But yeah, I did get my blood work back. And with that, in the meantime of like waiting on the rest of the lab work and going to the follow-up, I did use AI, just because I was like, okay, like I just want to see like what ChatGPT says about my lab work, and it was pretty much on point from what she was saying, but I'm not going to be like, oh, okay, well, what supplements do I need? Like, I'm waiting to go back to the expert to figure out exactly what's going on, especially because I did other lab work too. There's probably all some types of connections, or the other lab work I got was like to test for mold or Lyme disease or various autoimmune. And I want to, hopefully I can just eliminate those, that I don't have that, but it's still just like a pain in the butt. But it's so important that we are focused on those things and advocate for ourselves. And I mean, I went to like an endocrinologist. This was back in like 2017. And I had been working with an acupuncturist. Actually, he's like an acupuncturist and herbalist, and went to the endocrinologist though, just get the Western medicine check mark, and it was interesting because I'm like, he's like, it doesn't seem like you have PCOS, like your periods are okay, like everything's okay. Yes, you may have a little bit of like stubborn weight because I still wasn't like where I wanted to be. I still had like 10 to 15 pounds from that 10-year ago journey. Lingering. And I was like, that's frustrating. I also had like hirsutism, like coarse chin hair. And so I was like, I just like, what's going on, And so he ran all the blood work. He was like, I mean, honestly, like do yoga and, make sure you're moving your body. And I mean, your blood work looks okay. And he's like, go gluten free. And I was like, sir, I was like, I don't eat processed food. Like I rarely eat processed food. So even if you're telling me to like eat gluten free bread, I don't eat it. Like I eat sweet potatoes and grains, And he was like, oh, well, I mean, I guess just keep on doing what you're doing. And then I took my lab work from the endocrinologist, went to my acupuncturist, and he was like, first of all, why did you go to an endocrinologist? Secondly, he's like, okay, yeah, you may be in the normal range, but these can be skewed results. He's like, so technically, where you should be is like right here in the middle, but you're like on the high side or you're on the low side or whatever the case was. And he was like, there is something going on and we need to address it. And I was just like, thank you. Someone
That's
that's
one,
hearing me.
yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves when patients come to me and they're like, "Oh, well, my doctor said my labs are normal." I'm like, "Well, they may be normal textbook, but they're not optimal for you because you're still experiencing symptoms."
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely advocate people.
A lab expert. Like I learn stuff every day. There's some labs like, I offer to run and sometimes I say, "Hey, like if you're experiencing, so many symptoms and it's something that's not in my wheelhouse, I will happily refer to a functional med, a nutritionist." Like I actually work with a functional nutritionist here in the town that I live in, and her specialty is like hormones and gut, but she's not a doctor or practitioner, so we share patients, right? And it's like I don't know everything. And what you did is actually good. It's like, okay, you got an opinion, you got a second opinion. Now you're, looking at other things that maybe, that endocrinologist wouldn't even know to order, right?
That's right.
You're right. Like so many patients, they think that it's like just these small list of labs that they can have run, and their doctor or their practitioner says, "Oh, well, like you're normal, and so therefore you're fine." But I think that's where a lot of frustration lies with patients is like they're just told that everything's normal. Well, who's explaining what's normal for you and what's not, right? And so um yes, I echo the, advocate. If you don't know what to do, ask somebody that can at least give you, the next steps. And like I even like the people that I go on podcasts with, and so I'll self promote here.
Yeah.
I'm licensed in California, Arizona, and Nevada. But if I, have a client that wants health coaching, I, can coach them nationwide or even worldwide. And I have patients that come to me, they're like, I just need labs to be ordered that my provider won't order because it's an insurance-based system, right? And so like I have a lab shop for that. And they don't even have to see me and pay for a consultation. They can order labs on their own and have a phlebotomist come draw it, or they can go to their local lab. And then that lab company actually has a provider that's licensed in their state. So say they're, in South Carolina, I'm not licensed there. They can actually have somebody interpret the labs for them. And there are labs that your normal primary care provider would not order and might not know to order. So I offer that. Of course, I offer weight and hormone management. If you don't know what hormone management is, it's, replacement for progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, some other supplements that can affect your hormones. And that those patients usually are a little closer, like one-on-one support because every patient, takes hormones differently. Of course, the weight loss, and most people know about the weight loss medications, but there are injectable and now there are oral forms of weight loss medications. And then, like I said, if it's something that's not my love or not my wheelhouse, I do refer to providers all over the country. I have like a network of nurse practitioners and other like functional and nutritional practitioners that I say, hey, you live in Montana or you live in Indiana, like I'm going to find somebody for you because I want that person taken care of, and I can't do it all.
I love that. No, but I love that you've built a network and you continue to build a network. That's really, it's so important to have that, especially, it's not in your scope of practice. So let me refer you out. And because they're coming to you, they're trusting you, and you're building a trusting network. That's really awesome to be able to do. What was kind of backing up to when you were talking about, like, all the tools that you had, from counseling and psychiatry? What would you say, like, we can all be given these tools, but what we do with them when we're not with those counselors, right? What would you say were maybe like one or two, um, maybe like rituals that you started doing, or just tools that you had to do on your own that you implemented to, I guess, like just support your journey of everything?
Great question. So, and I'll preface this by saying I don't do these rituals every single day. I go through, I'm very phasic where it's like, oh, I'm, really motivated and do this thing, these times of the year, or, they come and go. But through all of the providers and practitioners that I saw, the biggest things, and they're very simple things, nothing crazy that doesn't require a bunch of money or time. For me, I walk every day. So that is one thing I do every day. I get out in the sunshine, or even if it's raining. I have 3 dogs, so I have to walk them anyway. But, just getting out in the sun, I think so many of us are stuck behind our computer screen or our phones in our faces, and we're affected really negatively by blue light. And so, I make it a point once, if not twice a day, sometimes more, depending on my schedule, to get outside and not be on a device. Like, don't take my cell phone with me, or don't take, ear pods with me. And I have a conversation with my partner. My partner and I have made that a daily ritual. And we just have real communication, real conversation. The phasic thing that I don't always do is journaling, whether it's in my prayer journal, or just getting stuff out that's on my chest. Making my dreams and my wishes and my desires like written down on paper. Like, I have certain things I want to achieve in my business, certain things I want to achieve in my life. And writing them down for me really, really helps, because it makes it seem more possible, because I'm like making a list or checking things off. Um, Other things that I didn't think that would affect me and my energy, or even my ability to, keep my weight in check, is sleep. And I went through this whole journey too with a dental sleep apnea specialist here where I live, because prior to weight loss surgery, I had a sleep study. I have sleep apnea. I tried the CPAPs and BiPAPs and all that, and I would break out. Like you're talking about when you ate certain foods with your MCAS, like having rash, like my whole like face would like swell wearing these masks. And I was like, no, like this is not worth it. Like my face is my business. And like got time for that. So I was like, okay, there's got to be like something else. And I learned so much about the facial structure and the teeth structure and the neck structure of how they actually have been changed through genetics over the last 100, 500 years, and they are impacting our sleep, not just me, but like everyone. Like if you've had teeth, or um if you've had braces, or I had Invisalign. I had teeth removed when I was in my teen years. So that has really negatively impacted my sleep. And so I make sleep a priority. I'm a night owl, but I still like to get my sleep. So like the walking, the appropriate amount of sleep, journaling when I can. And I'll go back to the hydration thing. Like I think a lot of us don't even realize how dehydrated we are. Excuse me. And when we are not getting the appropriate electrolytes and hydration, we just really feel crappy. And a lot of patients come to me complaining of brain fog. And it's like, well, like, let's just check your electrolytes and your hydration status first, And so, and there's all these other things that hydration impacts. So those are the biggest things as far as like things that your listeners can do. And it, again, it sounds super simple, but they work for me. There's some other self-talk things that I was taught by my trauma therapist and even my psychiatrist. And one of the psychiatrists that I saw, I don't know if you know Dr. Daniel Amen. He's like a famous psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed and thankful that one of his offices is close enough for me to go to. And I had like a full neuro and psychiatric evaluation by his team. And I love the information that he gives on social media about automatic negative thoughts and how to kill the ants. So
Yeah.
something that I was taught through my trauma therapy, because I think all of us, especially women, we're super critical and hard on ourselves. And if we can learn, whether through watching free, material on social media about that, or going to a counselor that can, teach you tools for you, specific to you, getting rid of those thoughts can make your day and your life a lot better.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Do you, I mean, everything's connected and like with business, relationships, your health, spiritually, all of that. I've done a lot of like mindset work and is that a part of like your, just what you were saying about like writing down your desires and goals, but like speaking from the present tense and like has that helped your health journey in the sense of saying like I am healthy or like how did I become so healthy? Like doing like mantras and affirmations as if you like in the becoming.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you were to ask me 5 years ago, like, do I even know what an affirmation is? Like, I don't know, but actually, a few years ago, I met a lovely lady who we met because I was actually looking to start doing retreats, and
Mm.
thankfully she was local. And now I'm, long-term friend with her and her daughter, and they have international retreats all over the world. And I remember the first retreat I went to was in Costa Rica, and we learned what affirmations are and like some examples of affirmations. And some of them, for a lot of people, they feel super cheesy and like, oh, that's dumb, or that's not me. But they actually really help, because you're giving yourself that positive self-talk, like right now, like I am beautiful, like I am well, like I feel good, and I'm gonna have a great day, like super simple, like cheesy stuff. And you can make it fun, right? It doesn't have to be the same affirmation every day. But that is something, yes, like the mindset, affirming that, like I'm good, like God has got me. I always tell my partner, like, God has never let us down, never let us down. And even though we have ups and downs in life, with business and relationship and all of the things, those positive things, telling yourself and shifting your mind, I'm telling you, the mindset, even though it's like, again, a woo-woo thing, it's like that really is so important, because there's so much negativity in our world. We don't need any more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You can give yourself and tell yourself, it's positive, and it doesn't have to be like completely conflated or make you, feel egotistical. It's just simple things, to tell yourself that, you are whole and you are worthy and you are good, and move forward with those thoughts that can, change so much for a lot of people.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Did you did you start your business before or after your surgery?
Um, So 2021 was full of stuff. So I had already planned my surgery in 2020, and it kept getting pushed back because of COVID. So I was
Okay.
supposed to have it in November of 2020. That didn't happen. And it got pushed back a few more times. And so I had my surgery in the end of March of 2021. The end of 20 into beginning of 2021, I was actively going through my divorce. Like, I was legally separated, moved out, like trying to figure out, what I want to do. And I was already working as a nurse practitioner. So I was already like, seeing these primary care and weight loss patients, because I had a physician that I worked with who I'm forever grateful for. He was a obesity management specialist. Like, he had a certification in that and taught me like all of his ways. And
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, someday I'm going to have a business. Like, I would love to do this. And I knew in my heart and myself, like, that I could do it. And so at the end of 2020, I was like, I need to find a business coach that can just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It's one step ahead of me, that can just show me the way and keep me accountable. Even though I'm a highly motivated person, starting a business, no matter what kind of business it is, it can really get you down. Like, entrepreneurship crazy and can be lonely and hard and a struggle. And so I think I started working with her in the summer of 21, and like for a good like 3-4 months. And then I launched in the fall of 2021. And honestly, the only reason I launched that quickly was because of my business coach. She held me accountable, and she still's, killing it with doing business coaching. And I've had other business coaches since then, and I am very grateful to her too, because I wouldn't be where I am today if she hadn't kicked my butt and got me going.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I was just wondering the like sequence of everything that happened. That was a yeah, that was a very transformative year for you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and then in 2022, like I lost a majority of that 130 pounds. I mean, it literally came off so fast. I lost my father at the end of 2022. I bought a house in 2022, moved across town. My business went from making just a little bit of money to multiple six figures. And yeah, so much has happened in the last few years. So yeah, 2021, 2022 were definitely a huge shift, huge change, pivotal. And for anyone listening that has a business or is thinking about starting a business, I just tell you to keep going, because like now in 2025, like if I had quit or left my business, I wouldn't, be where I am financially and free wise as far as my schedule if I had just said, oh no, I'm going to go back to work for somebody. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so
I
just
love yeah, keep going. Everybody keep going. No, I love that so much. This may be an interesting question, but with like, did you see your business take off after you had your surgery? Like,
well,
was correlation? And I asked, and let me preface this. I asked that because, like I was saying earlier, like when I had gained a bunch of weight, like people could relate more to me, right? And so I felt like when I was doing more health coaching back then, I was, my business was growing more rapidly because I was like, I could share stories that were relating to people that were needing to lose weight, right? And then they saw me losing weight and they were like, oh, wow, she's having this transformation. So I was just wondering if there was some correlation to that.
yeah. So again, I'll say probably for the fifth time in this podcast, like there are so many people now in 2025, 2024, 2025 that are doing or providing weight loss services. And I hope that everyone is as passionate as I am when it comes to that. But to answer your question or thought on that about like, did it take off more? I think yes, to a degree, because I think that's what sets me apart from the average doctor or practitioner offering weight management, because I've lived that life and I can speak to the symptoms, the like psychology behind it. Sometimes I'll even tell women, and this is just like a little, baby phrase of like, like I know what it's like to, look in your closet and you have nothing to wear because you can't find anything and you definitely don't want to leave the house. And then that is triggering to people, but that gets them to move, right? It's like I was able to have that conversation, not in a, oh, like you're so, overweight or obese, like, you need to do something about it. But like, I've been there like for
Right.
years, like a lot of years of my life, like, yes, like I love to, look nice and have a nice outfit on, but when you don't feel good and you don't look good because you're carrying on extra 40, 50, 100, 150 pounds, like that really screws with your psyche. So I mean, I would think and hope and assume that the patients that I've been able to have a real conversation with, like, I know where you are and I've been there and there is another side of that. I think that
Right.
might be helpful. And definitely from mid 2022 to even beginning of 2024, I had great, like, huge clientele. Like, this year has been really slow. And I think, again, it's just like the healthcare providers that offer weight management are so flooded right now. But that doesn't bother or scare me, because I feel like somebody like me will rise to the top because I'll keep going, like I mentioned earlier, and I will be able to keep speaking to that personal experience and know
Yeah.
what they are going through is real, and telling them and showing them and giving them that framework of what they can do to look better, feel better, metabolically be healthier. So that's my hope. But yeah, I think and maybe can assume that yeah, it definitely helped, because I'm not just somebody doling out a prescription and not understanding what their journey has been like.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. I was like, how do I ask this? Yeah, well, it's interesting too. Just like two thoughts came to my mind. Like, I feel like in the industry, out there, people like can sometimes be like, oh, coaches, they're just like, coaches don't have any schooling, they don't have a degree, they don't have like certifications, and there can be some truth to that. But like I'm a certified health coach, I went to school for it, but there are some based on their experience, their journey, they help other people overcome. And granted, I would say as you further yourself as an entrepreneur and a coach, you do start to get credentials and that kind of thing. But yeah, I was just wondering because I think that that is something that is so important in our industry as a coach or entrepreneur is like the lived experience is so much more than a degree with just knowledge. Like 100%.
So I have a friend and a colleague that lives close to me, and she's a few years older than me. She's a mom. She's been through a ton of things with her children and personally in the healthcare system. And all the years that I've known her, she keeps telling me that she wants to do like nutrition coaching. And she was like, I got to go back and get this degree and that certification. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, I mean, and of course, like, I am for, formal education and for formal certification, but I would probably still be marketing my business and my brand as far as like health coaching goes, even if I didn't have two degrees. Like I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, lots of years of experience and training at the bedside and in the clinic. But your personal lived experience and knowledge of how you can take what you learned and help other people, I think that is so invaluable. And so she hasn't done it yet, but I keep kind of like prodding her, like, you have career that you love and it's great for your family, but you have this passion that you have not tapped into yet. Like I'm hoping and encouraging her because she would be great at it, right? And like I think a lot of patients gravitate towards, oh, well, you've been through it, you can help me because you've already been there. Like
Mhm.
tell my coaching clients for starting a new practice, like you don't need a coach that is a multi-bajillionaire. You need somebody that's 1 to 2 steps ahead of you that can tell you the steps in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
Like you need somebody that is maybe a year or two or maybe even three ahead of you that has gone through your journey that can speak to it. It's not like, oh, 20 years ago I did this. Like I
Right.
did this 6 months ago and it worked, right? Or I did this a year ago and it worked. So, and I feel like that goes for business and health. And yeah, I mean, of course, there's probably some health coaches out there or coaches in general that don't really have a great teaching framework, but I think the ones that are successful and have been through something or multiple somethings, I think those are the people that will rise to the top and will be the most successful because they have a clientele that trusts them because of their experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you were saying, like if there's like a little bit of like a lull for you this year, I mean, doing things like this is just getting yourself more, in front of different audiences. And, I'll definitely like make a little comment in our group because, to let people know, hey, Booker.
Love to like talk. I mean, it doesn't have to be about weight loss or hormones. But that's a hot topic right now, and I hope that it continues to be because there's still so much to uncover about weight loss medications, the food industry, like
Oh,
plays a role in our hormones and then the long-term effects of all of those things. Like I think that will continue to explode and I'm excited for that because hopefully my hope is that more real whole food nutrition education will be pushed out to the masses. And so like, my biggest love and passion is just education in general. Like education in health, education in wealth because I have a finance firm too. So like I love to have somebody's complete picture taken care of. And that's just my passion. So, yeah, like if this year has been like a down year as far as like clientele goes, but, I'm still like, wanting to, promote and educate and offer my services, because people need it. That's
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
They do. We're never going to run out of people who need what you have.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I hope so.
I love that. Health and wealth. I'm always like health is wealth. So,
I mean, think about a time that, and I can speak to a recent time. Think about a time, at least one time in your life where you're like, I am so sick, like I can't do the things that I need to do, not even want to do.
right?
Like everyone has gone through that. If they're an adult, they've gone through something in their life their health has probably affected them, even if it was a really bad sinus infection.
Right. Yeah.
Made them feel, bad. And I am so, so grateful for all of the ups and downs in my health that has taught me that to be very grateful for when I do feel well.
Mhm.
Because it gives you that time, and we cannot get time back.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree. Gosh, now I want to ask you all the questions about everything else. Yeah, I'll have to do a part two. Exactly. Well, this has been lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your just your personality, your expertise, everything with us. Share with people can, if you have any lasting thoughts, obviously share those and then tell people where they can find you and reach out to you as well.
Yeah, so I have so many social media platforms, but my main two for my business, I have coaching, which is just my name, Aly V Johnston, ALY Johnston, and then my weight loss hormone page is Well by AM, WELLBYAM. And so you can find me there, direct message me there. Would love to, work with the, people that are listening. And again, if it's not in a state that I'm licensed in, please still message me. I'm happy to find you someone. And I'm that kind of person that will find someone for you. So I don't just give you a name. Like, I will say, okay, like, where do you live? Let me help you out. Let me find somebody that can do what you're looking for. So I love doing that too.
I love that. That's great. Guys, that's amazing. Like, that is, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate you. So,
Appreciate you. Fun.
yeah.